I used to think it was impossible to forgive. I used to ruminate, and I just recently stopped ruminating. I am a product of child abuse and neglect. Yeah, I thought I was never loved. I felt unwanted, never appreciated, never celebrated. I thought everybody in the world hated me, starting with my parents. You're constantly living in that negative feed where you tell yourself all the things maybe your parents told you, you know the word. And then we tell ourselves the words because we think we need to live in that cycle. It's not like we want to live in that cycle, but we tend to repeat the cycle of what we are raised in. Now that I'm doing shadow work, which is working on those issues from childhood and learning how to reparent myself, learning how to forgive and let things go. When you do the shadow work, a lot of memories are going to resurface that you maybe pushed down and made yourself forget. That recently happened to me. I had forgiven my mother, and then I remembered something that happened when I was 14, and I was so shocked by it that I pushed it down and made myself forget, and then it recently came back up, and so I cried every day. And I was angry at her again every day. And I just pretty much let it destroy me for weeks. And I could barely talk to her because I was so upset. And it's like I had to relive that experience all over again, because you kind of have to feel all those feelings before you can learn to process it and let it go. Part of processing it is feeling it, feeling the pain, remembering the experience, and then making peace with it. I literally hated my parents for years. I hated what they put me through. I believed all those things they told me. I believed that I was bad and I deserved all the abuse that I was getting. And if you want to get over yourself, like I did, probably the biggest thing that helped me on the path of forgiveness was trying to understand what my abusers came from. I started asking questions, and I learned the kinds of things that happened to my father growing up. And it was 20 times worse than anything that I had endured. And same thing with my mother. She was neglected. She was treated so despicably. And so it helped me to understand my parents on a different level. It made me see them as humans, not just my parents who inflicted pain and suffering. It helped me to see that they went through their own pain and suffering. And people, for the most part, repeat the patterns of how they were raised. Not everybody does. Every parent makes mistakes, and I've done my share of screwing up, but my kid is in a far better place than I ever was. But just saying, nobody gets the parenting thing right. Nobody gets the parenting thing perfect. We can do our best with what we know, with what we have. We have to see our parents like that. They were doing the best they could with what they had at the time, and they didn't have much. They both came from abusive, neglectful homes. They came from parents who did not love them, did not take care of them properly. They put them in harm's way. It's no wonder that they did the same with me, because nobody was around to teach them any different, But I know it can feel hard to talk about this kind of stuff, but I've learned that you have to deal with it. Burying it doesn't work, because it's always going to find its way to the surface until you do learn to process each feeling and each experience. Hating my parents for years didn't help me with anything, but I felt justified in my hating them. I felt justified in my anger, but I also felt guilt, felt shame. I felt fear of every human on the planet, mostly the guilt and shame, because I felt like a bad person because I was treated so badly and told I was bad, and I believed it. The next thing that you really need is you have to feel better. You really have to want it. For years, for most of my life, I was wrapped up in my own little bubble of hate for others, hate for myself, fear of everything and everybody. I couldn't find any light in my heart. I couldn't find any connection to my soul. I just never felt like myself. I didn't know who I was. I just felt like this demon, really. I felt like demons were overtaking my brain of just hate and anger and darkness. You can't help but think those things, because if you don't feel worthy of good things, you think the worst. And it's natural to think the worst when you feel like you are the worst. But I'm here to tell you that it's all a bunch of lies that we tell ourselves. And it's a bunch of lies that they tell us because they don't know any better. That's all it is. They just don't know any better. And we don't know any better because we haven't been given the tools to heal, to process, to improve ourselves. The first thing you need to do is stop beating yourself up. Stop telling yourself the negative stuff. You have to retrain your brain and reparent yourself. You have to do just the opposite. And it feels very foreign. It feels very alien because you've been conditioned to believe the bad stuff, and you've had a lifetime of believing the bad stuff about yourself. And if you want to get better, you really have to want it. And that means doing the work. So I put it out to the universe, creator, God, whatever you want to call it, that I want to be better. Put it out to the universe or whoever your higher power is that you want to be better. And I'm telling you, and I know it sounds cliche, but when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and usually the teachers will be coming out of the woodwork to help you overcome yourself. When I just recently stopped having all of this hate and anger, blame and bitterness, because I realized it was not just eating my heart alive. It was also hurting all of my relationships. Go through the processing of your emotions and your experiences, your feelings. The lesson in understanding where your parents came from. I mean, people usually act and respond based on their conditioning. And if they don't know that there's a better way, or they have no access to better, they don't know how to do better because they don't even see that better exists. Some people have no money for therapy, or they believe that if you go to therapy, you must be a crazy person. They don't really get the nuggets of wisdom in it because they aren't open to see any wisdom. And we see everything based on our specific perceptions. And our perceptions come usually based on our conditioning, first from our parents or others involved in our upbringing, and then everything else that occurs in our lives and our response to it. And then our conditioning changes based on what we feed our brain and how we train and reparent ourselves if we make the choice to do so. And it doesn't matter how old you are when you start this process. I feel like I should have reached this point years ago, but things happen in their own timing, and when the time is right, the time is right. And there's no age limit. There's no, age limit to when you start healing yourself. So don't beat yourself up about how old you are when you start trying to get better. You have to feel into what you feel. You can't avoid it, thinking avoidance is going to make it go away. It's going to make you forget about it because that's not true. You've probably tried it. I've tried it. It doesn't work. So in processing for me, I take one feeling or experience at a time and I deal with it. I talk to it. I bring it into the room with me. I'm always alone with nobody in earshot and I talk it out. I tell the imaginary person what they did that hurt me. I visualize it quietly sometimes in my mind, but I don't know. It really helped me to talk about it out loud with the imaginary person in the room with me. So I talked to them. I told them what they did that hurt me. I told them what they should have done and how they should have treated me. I told them I deserved better and that I still deserve better. And then I heard back from them what I wanted to hear them say to me. I heard them tell me that they're sorry. They asked me for my forgiveness. They told me they didn't mean to cause me so much suffering. They should have done better for me. And, I get in reality that some of these people, it would be really hard to hear these things from. Like, if I actually had this conversation in real life with my biological father, he would never say these kinds of words to me because he's very narcissistic and he never thought he did anything wrong. Everything is my fault. That's what he thinks. And some people stay in their trap of a bubble their entire lives, and there's nothing that you can do about that. But as long as we can help ourselves to get better, we can make a difference if we do that. And each person that works on themselves makes the world a little bit better. And when we do that, we heal the world. If each of us are working on ourselves, we have the tools. We just need to use them. In my imaginary conversation, I told them that I forgive them. I thanked them for their apology. And then I told them I loved them. I heard them tell me they loved me and I let it go. You don't want to feel into your feelings for too long. You want to maybe do it for a day or two, if even that long. Especially if you're a deep feeler or hypersensitive like I am, you don't want to feel into it too long because it can become a whole new thing. You don't want to ruminate. Okay. That's what we want to stop doing. At some point, we just need to put it behind us and move on with positive trajectory of where we want our lives to go. It's a choice that we have to make. All of these choices are intentional. We're doing the work so that we can move forward. Okay. And so I asked myself, how is this torture serving me? How is this anger, this sadness, bitterness serving me? Do I want to continue carrying this heavy, hard load of the past with me every day of my life until I die? Or do I decide to just leave it in the past where it belongs and go out and search for joy, maybe add new meaning to my life? Do I want to send out love and receive love? If you're ready to let it go, what I did was I cupped my hands together as if I was holding water in my hands and I didn't want any to drip out. But instead of water, it was suffering. It was all of my pain and struggle and self-hate and hate of others, all of the bad feelings that I didn't want to carry with me anymore. I held it in my hands. I looked at it and I asked myself, do I want to keep holding on to it or do I want it to be washed away? We can leave all the ugly lost in the past and move on with our lives and find new meaning, add joy to our lives. So I imagined myself standing in a river. Don't go stand in a river for real, because that's dangerous. But I imagined myself standing in the river and I just wanted to let it all go. I opened my hands and I let it flow away. I sent it away with love, hoping that it would find healing, but I was sending it away from me because I didn't need it anymore. And you can do that too. You can watch it as it flows away. You can send it away with love, or you can just save yourself time and walk away. The lesson here, if you choose to do it, or better yet, perhaps these questions would suffice. Where can you apply forgiveness in your life? Which one will be your starter forgiveness project? It means that you'll have to put down all of that weight that you've been carrying on your shoulders, your mind, your heart. But once you put all of that weight down off of yourself, you pick up something else and it's much lighter and it feels easy and flowy and generous. I think it actually expands your soul in some way because it feels very spacious. It's like you reach a different level in the game. I think it's partly how we begin to awaken, because I have had some awakening experiences kind of on a beginner awakening level. It's kind of fascinating, honestly. The first time that I forgave someone, but I did feel the spaciousness. I did feel the weight lift and the sun was brighter somehow. I know it's cliche, but when people say forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself, it really is. And you don't get that until you actually do it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, they are right. Those people are right. Side note, this works well for forgiving yourself too. And if you'd like for me to do a separate video on forgiving yourself, let me know, because that's really important too. You can do the same thing with forgiving yourself as you did with forgiving others. And I hope you got something out of this video, some nugget of wisdom. If you did, please drop me a comment and let me know if it was helpful in some way, or even if it wasn't. I want to be able to help others with my story if it's at all possible that I can actually help others with my story. And though this is nearing the end of today's video, I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you again here tomorrow, where we can maybe help each other to rise up and feel better, do better, and be better. And I'm sending you so much love and peace and joy